Okay, so it is April 10th, a Monday, I think. And we had a good morning. We went
This
out
is
for a
Robert
walk.
Dussain,
Oh, yeah.
Creative Life.
Oh, this is the Creative Life. That's right. Well, hello,
Mm-hmm.
everyone. We went for a walk this morning, and we went to the Rock City Cafe and did some research, and then did our Qigong in the Farnsworth Garden on the way there, and then came back home, rested a little bit, and then we had been talking about doing a recording and getting a feel for where the creative life is right now. We've done the shows
Mm-hmm.
with WRFR here locally, and this is kind of a continuation of our life through recording and to share it with you. We'll probably put it online. So, hello.
Hello.
That was a big introduction,
I
wasn't
know, it was, it
it?
was. And I think that we're at a time right now, we felt that we wanted to gather a lot of ideas about, we're right here on the big full moon.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, what kind of, do you know, is it an Aries full moon or a, I'm not sure. I think it is, but
Mm-hmm. We're in the
nevertheless, it's
month
a
of Aries.
full moon and a
It's a full
lot's
moon.
going on. That's for
Yeah,
sure.
this full moon has a lot going on.
Yeah.
It's um,
So the
a
name
lot of
of this
expansion.
show is How to Create During a Full Moon. How's that? We have a name for our show, so
Yeah.
this is the creative full moon show. Um, so the reason that we decided to do a recording is because when we do, it's almost like you're interviewing yourself, and you get as you talk to each other, and you do it in a recorded manner.
We get a big picture of
You
where
get
we
yeah,
are.
we get the big picture, and that's what we're after. We want that for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves and for other people. So there's a lot going on out there in the world, and at this time of year with this date, you'll know April 10th, 2017, all the kinds of things going on out there. But to be able to drop into the creative space, it can take some doing, and
It's
we're
kind of
we're
hard
doing it.
today.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Really.
that's a up and down, wanky kind of day. Have you had a day like that before?
Mm-hmm.
We certainly have. So.
Yeah. It's been kind of, and it's been kind of so kind of a little bit wanky that it is hard to drop down into a depth of creative space.
Mhm. Mhm.
You can kind of surface. So, but we really realize that we have a real need and desire for to drop into a deeper
Yeah.
space.
And we do have a distinctive advantage that there's the both of us. So we lend each other that support to help move into that direction. It's a
Yeah.
little bit harder if you're by yourself and feeling overwhelmed. And it's not that we don't get overwhelmed; we do at times. But
Well, we woke up with a big dream,
oh
and
yeah.
that's really cool. That doesn't happen very often. We'd waken up, and then we kind of paddled around a little while, and then we went back to bed and just felt like we still needed to rest some more. And I put on the recording of the Kuan Yin Oracle that we often listen to in the morning to kind of set our days in a nice place because it's the oracle of compassion.
Mhm.
And we listen to each piece of it, and then it kind of we can feel ourselves kind of sit into those spaces. And I kind of drifted off to sleep, and I really did a big, deep dreaming, and I don't think I've ever dreamt that big escape. It
Mhm.
was just a huge,
Yeah, as you told me about
mm-hmm,
it, there's a lot of visual detail. Big.
just tremendous amount of visual detail.
Mhm.
And it's futuristic. I mean, well, it's past and
Mhm.
futuristic, and it was all about our work, and and it was very colorful in full color,
Mhm.
and it was all about on the iPad that all at once it lit up the blue iPad, and there was like a movie on it, and it was a musical, and our patterns were all over the walls,
Wow.
and they were gorgeous, and the people were all dressed in the patterns, and they were singing, and it was and then we realized that it was like they were singing from our work, and even Susanna's world, and I saw Susanna in it, but she was like a young girl,
Mhm.
and she was all dressed in zebra,
Mm.
and it was like but they were singing from all the work, so it was really exciting, and then all at once it was like we had moved um, somewhere that where this was going on,
Mhm.
and we'd gone to this big opening where this was, and there was this man there that had connected. His son was like connected with this show, and the father was going to back this
Mm-hmm.
whole thing and back our work, and you just knew he was. It was just like set, and it was just kind of and it was really exciting because it was just gorgeous. And then in a room right off from that,
Certainly a nice feeling to have.
hmm
Wow.
and lots of people were coming in to this opening, and it was like a huge rooms where the artwork was from the ceiling to the floor
Mm-hmm.
on the walls, and then right off from it was this other area, and a tall, slender man, I didn't even hardly see him, came to my right ear, and he started quoting uh, from my other books, from the books we've done,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like in love with it, and he was quoting all kinds of things from it. And I went in the room he was in, and it was a huge, great big room area,
Mm-hmm.
and the ceilings had the words were printed out on paper and wrapped around the rafters and all the walls, and were up and down on top of things and around pillars and everywhere, but a lot of it was up on the ceiling, and it was great
Wow,
big.
that's fascinating.
And the thing is, it didn't say clarity. It had a signature two words that were from what I wrote,
Uh-huh.
and it was over and over again, and I can't remember what it is.
Hmm.
But he was, and then there were shelves of pottery,
Mm-hmm.
and I looked in the pottery, and each piece of pottery had a little card in it with more of the writing
Wow.
things from the different books,
Mm-hmm.
and they were like just little paragraphs,
Mm-hmm.
and it was all over this shop or whatever this was,
Mm-hmm.
and that was right off from where the play was. And his focus was completely different. There wasn't any visual of the art. There were just
Mm-hmm.
all the words.
Wow.
And he came in to my right ear, so that's kind of indicative of
Oh,
the
the
future.
future. Mm-hmm.
And he was tall and thin. I don't
Mm-hmm.
even know if he was human.
Mm.
But he was
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. And then, uh,
But certainly a benevolent
uh-huh.
presence.
So, and I never had a dream that had so many facets to it, and that I remember it was like a whole scape, and
Mm-hmm.
and that it also one was all in colors, and then the other was more in browns and blacks and whites,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the pottery was brown, was kind of the clay color,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's just, I woke up with that, and this is on this full moon,
Mm-hmm.
and so I thought that was really, really important. And so we
And
needed to kind of talk about it.
we realized this. We had said something about it earlier. Well, actually, just a while ago. That if you know angelic lore, the archangel Hanael is connected with the moon, especially the full moon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's auspicious, to say the least.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you're working in a creative life, you do look for signals and portents and inklings of, and you follow
And
the
messages
trails of the
from.
muse and messages from the muse.
Mm-hmm.
So um, that's just a thing to be aware of, that if you're in a creative life already, and a working artist or whatever, you're certainly aware of, but just to bring it to the forefront today
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, important because of this full moon time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we are, as we always do every year.
And there's a real energy shifting
Mm-hmm.
about our work, and we both feel it. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know. It's like people that haven't wanted to hear about it in the last few weeks have actually opened up more,
Mm-hmm.
and we really didn't do anything different except within ourselves. We kind of came to the point with this work, which we love dearly, that if we see people, if they're not really wanting to talk to us about something really real in our lives, just it's like we're just done. We just
Mm-hmm.
don't want to. We want
Mm-hmm.
we want to
We
talk
want
to people that we
meaningful
can go deeper
relationship,
with. Mm-hmm.
and that means a meaningful conversation.
That we want to hear about what's really meaningful in their lives, and we want them to be open to hear about what's meaningful in ours.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of done with all the other chatter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember both of us
This is a
thinking
good
this
place to be in
about
for
it's over
anyone.
the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all at once, it's really odd shifting. It's like people come up, and all it was, we're having real conversations with them.
Mm-hmm.
Ones that we deeply enjoy. And it's like maybe this time with all this going on, people are realizing that there's just no time for the surface stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm. It's time to really
Yeah, to go through all the
focus
drawers.
yeah. and that's the one that we are seeing for ourselves locally is people that are in our local area. When you're out walking, they're more open to saying hello. How are you? They're everyone's because of all of the stir. They're more willing to connect with each other because they're
Because we need each other.
because we need each other. We all do. We all
Yeah,
need each
and
other.
we appreciate. I think we're
Mhm.
thankful. We're even more thankful for what's people in our lives that we
Mhm.
love, and what's and people that have a value system that's deeper
Mhm.
than what's going on right now in our
Yeah.
country.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think that for any of the creatives, anyone in the arts, that the frustration can be that though the culture is aware of the arts and they've supported it at a certain level, the artists themselves are always working at the edge of things. They're always not only at the edge of the ideas, but also at the edge of their own personal economies. They're just, it's a handful that are really in a place of security and safety in terms of a relaxed financial life. So a lot of artists are it's always there's been the struggle, and yet at the same time there's such a huge need in the culture
There
for
is.
the artists and for the arts to be able to lift up and to enlighten and to bring light and a sense of well-being, which the arts can do. So.
Well, I think people, a lot of for us in the art right now,
Mm-hmm.
last year we felt we needed so much. We needed more
Yeah.
room for our art, and we have an extended family, and it's a good size, and we're in a space that looks large, but it's not big enough for the amount of people we have in our family, and
Mm-hmm.
so we love all being together. So
Mm-hmm.
we try to move ourselves to find a space larger,
Mm-hmm.
and we love the house that we were in.
Mm-hmm.
and
Absolutely.
and we fixed all things up and got it all ready to show and all that, and we did all that, and we all thought to ourselves, God, we love this house, we
Mm-hmm.
love where we are. And it was up for not that long a time, because by the time it was all kind of little delays with the people that were going to do it. And so finally we realized that winter was coming, and we just and we
We
all
had it
realized
on
how
the
much
market
we
and
loved
decided
it.
to have it off the
We
market.
had it on the market. We were ready for a bigger space, and somehow it didn't move. So we said, well, let's look at our space different. And so we started thinking, and we rearranged things in our heads, and then we
Mm-hmm.
redesigned things in the home, and we made the home much more spacious for
Yeah.
ourselves. And it's like turning things around, and so in all of that, it made us realize how wonderful it was,
Mm-hmm.
and then how we could expand it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still not big enough.
Yeah.
And so it was a few weeks ago, a lot of the things in that expansion were things that we all wanted to do together, and expand spaces for us to work together creatively.
Mm-hmm.
So finally, a few weeks ago, I just said, it was all kinds of errands that were on Sunday. It's kind of our home space,
Mm-hmm.
and usually we're all there, but we were it's kind of the day that become to go out and get the groceries for some of us.
Mm-hmm.
And so we said, let's make it a creativity day
Mm-hmm.
and not go anywhere. And so we did. So we started 2 Sundays ago,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a great big table that we all sit at to eat. And Robert and I I started bringing all the games and all the creative things that we have gotten for the whole family and for the children and everything, which nobody seemed time to do. We brought them all to the table, and it was like everything was getting opened up and played with
Mm-hmm.
and built.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like we were there like 3 hours, and we had popcorn and music and 12 people around this table
It's
creating,
intensely focused. Yeah.
intensely focused. And five children of
From 7 to
12,
12. Yep.
and then seven adults. And it was incredible. And this last Sunday was the third Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And every Sunday you didn't think you could repeat it. It felt like, well, you need to do this. And we just stayed with it. And then this Sunday, it was a beautiful day. And so the kids went to the park, but we all gathered at 2.
Mm-hmm.
And it went wonderful. We
Yeah.
had a wonderful, wonderful time. And we all started realizing that what we wanted to do in the bigger home that we all dreamed of, we call the Kalachakra House, what we wanted to do, we couldn't wait till we got there to do it. We couldn't build the big rooms where we do fiber and the big rooms where we work together on 3D pieces
Mm-hmm.
and the weaving and the knitting and all those things in the children's art studio. And we had to do it. It's like it was a leap that wouldn't be denied. So we had to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So they did it here at our table for 12, and it was wonderful because
Mm-hmm.
I realized that we really couldn't move into the bigger space we dreamed of if we had never done it.
Yeah.
That we dreamed of it, all this creativity is what we dreamed of doing in this bigger space, and having gardens and people over for meals and all, that we had to do it here, so that when we moved there, we were already in that process.
Yeah. And I think the thing that you might want to consider, those of you listening that are in the creative arts, the collaborative aspect, the kind of the
This was the whole family coming together to collaborate.
and the collaborative aspect is so valuable. It is for Suzanne and me together. It always just adds a huge, huge amount to everything we do. But what I found that during these Sundays with this creative effort and seeing everyone engage together is that it opens up the thinking, and it affects the studio work. What it does is that you see the components that are active, the people that are active, and where their interests are, and what they're doing, and how you can see a future picture of engaging with the children and the other members of the family in certain parts that have to do with what Suzanne and I are doing in the studio, and that expands it. That expands that whole idea because we're thinking of textile and we're thinking of printing and computer and things like that. And we can't.
Fiber.
We're at a point that
3D.
we have such a huge body of work. We can't do it all. We just can't do it all because we can see it expanding. We can do the parts that we're to do, but now we can see that as it expands even bigger, that there are those here that have the interests that you can see how easily they could, if it clicks for them, it would be an easy segue into that realm.
As we're planning our show this year, last year our show was what do you call that when you reflect a show?
Oh, a retrospective.
Yeah, a retrospective.
30-year retrospective.
Yeah, and we really didn't do a lot of new work because I was dealing with cataracts. But this year, it's like we've been just gathering. We've done some of the work, but most of all, we've been doing research for the work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about the return of Faye,
Yeah.
the Wooded Way, and it's all about mixing. Really, it's like mixing everything that we have both individually loved in our lives into a whole body of work that brings all of it. It's very retrospective in that kind of way.
And when you say Faye, it's like if you say the word nature, if you think of the word nature, when someone says nature, you don't think of just a certain thing, like just a tiger. That's nature. Or just trees. That's trees and tigers equal nature. Or trees, tigers, and mountains equal nature. No, when someone says nature, you think of the whole scope of what nature is and
Mm-hmm.
how a bazillion, trillion, quadzillion parts are what create nature, what nature is.
Yeah, and
So
Faye
Faye
is
brings
integrated
all of
into all
these,
of nature.
brings all of those elements in if you're open
Mm-hmm.
to it. So suddenly, instead of being open to just this, which is why we are mixed media artists, we work with all media, is because we are open to and listening for what comes to the surface, what's next, and we're not trying to to what is it, filter out
Well,
certain.
we've actually been in working as intuitives. We've
Mm-hmm,
been kind of forced into it. We started out with paper
mm-hmm,
and paint and canvas,
mm-hmm.
and probably would it that was very
It was a
comfortable.
tidy, nice little
Yes,
world,
it was a
wasn't
very
it?
tidy world, and and then all at once we ran out of those kind of supplies, and we didn't have the funds, and then we went into we went to yards. There was doors. We started painting on doors, and we did a whole show, and they were doorways, they were
They
portals,
became doorways, yeah.
and then after
Which
that
would not have happened if we
we
had stayed
did
in our small little
yeah, we did
spot.
fibers and things on uh, canvases that we stretched
Mm-hmm,
and used different things over them, and then did all kinds of 3D things on them.
mm-hmm.
The things that we could get our hands on, and we just went from that to the next thing. I remember the man that at that yard sale that we only had quarters left, and he
Yeah,
said,
yeah, it
"Well,
was
we
at
could
the end
have."
of the day.
Yeah,
Yep.
he said, "Well, whatever." He said, "Whatever you can get in your car, and you
And
can take, but I get to put stuff in your car too
at the same
at the
time.
same time." It was like some kind of quiz show. It was a scream. But out of that, we got the most wonderful canvas,
Oh my gosh,
huge
yeah.
canvas. And
So we were stuffing the car with what we saw that we could use, and he was stuffing the car with stuff he wanted to get rid of. So,
and
and which a lot of those things we wanted anyway. So
yeah, we were laughing
it was
so hard.
hilarious. It was just hilarious.
Yeah, but there we got kind of, we couldn't. It's like the universe was not interested in us just doing one medium.
Mm-mm.
And we became multimedia because life is that way.
Mm-hmm.
And our work is all about the livingness. And so life is not just flat, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
just two medias. You bring everything. So every year when we'd wait to see what the show was about, it we had to integrate that
Mm-hmm.
into our lives. And so this year we're we're looking at all kinds of wonderful things that all relate to the fae and the nature and trees and labyrinths and patterns and working with marks and
Texture and yeah.
organic art and texture at the same time, painting
Mm-hmm.
and working with paper and sewing, and we're gathering up all this that we can incorporate into this year, the
Yeah.
return of Fae.
Yeah.
And part of it is like with the family, even making looms of out of nature in the
Mm-hmm.
garden
Mm-hmm.
and photographing it, and then you
So our
know,
interests, we're sharing our interests is showing up for this next show, but we're sharing the interest, and there is so much interest in the families that they're just going to have so much fun with it, and
hmm
then that's going to feed us as it feeds them, and that just generates more, and there is the collaboration.
and because of a gathering on Sunday, it's a place where we come together where
Mm-hmm.
that could actually happen
Yeah.
with from the child to the adult.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked at marks and the whole art of marking
Yeah.
and all the experimentation that's being done
Oh,
with gathering nature.
there is a book
And
called Mark Making, and
yeah,
it's by Helen Parrott,
yes, and
Parrott.
that looks really good.
And we just got it today, and it looks absolutely fascinating. So,
But
if you get a
in her
chance,
mark making, a lot of people are also experimenting with mark making with all kinds of things in nature, like your paintbrush would be the brush part would be leaves, or the
mm-hmm,
brush part would be a stick, and you gather and they wrap all kinds of
Yeah.
colors around it. It's almost like
Even take
a
little bits of
wand when you
feathers
get
and
finished, and
yeah.
feathers, and you use all of them to
And the combination
experiment.
of that, I think, is really appropriate. I
Yeah.
think for the fae, for the magical, mystical part of nature that brings all this to us is just so using the gifts that are there already and gathering them up and using
Even
them is going to
sewing.
be another layer of what we do. Yeah,
We were
sewing.
Robert's so interested in sewing and in hand making like spirit cloths, making spirit pieces that go onto pieces, and about I'm interested in also we're interested in making taking dolls that are glass dolls and reworking them.
Reworking because they have the cloth bodies, so you can sew into them
and
create
the porcelain faces, so you
Yeah.
can paint the faces and they can enter into that, and it's we're really having fun collecting them and working with that, and then at the same time working with painting on paper and painting on canvas, and I think this is a really broad scope this
we're
year.
wanting to share this with you because you're inside the process of what we're in the process of, and maybe it'll
Well, I think so much in the world
inspire you to
is being pulled
look at
together
a lot of new things
because so much is threatened in the world.
Yeah.
From people to nature to our environment to our water, our Mother Earth, that it's almost like because of the threat, it's almost like everything is being pulled together into a force, and it's being pulled together into this integrated masterpiece of collaboration. And that's because we always pull from our time, our past, present, and future time. But I think we're like pulling all of these energies into this work.
Yeah.
This work that we're doing.
Wow, I'm glad we are doing this recording.
Yeah.
So I think that shall we?
Oh, how long have we been talking?
Looks like what is that? A 3 27 minutes. So about almost coming up on the half hour.
Okay, well, we usually talk an hour on the Creative Life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Do we have that much in us today?
Well, I wanted to explore more.
Oh, okay, let's explore some more. Where are we going? Feel that silence as it comes in. We're waiting for it to come into us, but well, we could explore. We have gathered up a lot of information, so I think within probably the next week or so, because it kind of times itself with as you get outdoors and start. We're talking on our walk about planting seeds.
Yeah.
And that'll probably happen. Start planting them in flats and stuff in the next. Since we're not a big greenhouse, in the next couple of weeks. So it feels like we kind of time ourselves. We do have a natural timing with nature. So I think in the next 2 weeks or so, we'll begin taking what we've gathered and start planting it, or start either laying it down onto paper, or laying it down onto a frame, or starting to take threads and begin planting them into cloth, or I don't know. It feels like we're real close to that.
We found a wonderful book called the just
oh,
this
yeah, we
week
can do that
called
on
The
this show.
Organic Artist by Nick Neddo.
How do you spell his last name?
Neddo.
Nick Neddo. Okay.
But it's about making your own paint, paper, pigments, prints, and more from nature. And
so,
it looks very
since
exciting.
we don't get any paid advertisement, but does it say who the publisher is? Oh well.
I think you got it. You ordered it.
Okay. Well, anyway, it's a good book.
We've just began to enter it, but it's a lot of things that we're wanting to incorporate in the Return of the Fae. And there's so much that's connected. So much of nature is connected when you start working with it. It's like so many things like baskets and things from sticks and things from pods and then painted patterns and things from cloth that are interwoven, and all at once you see, uh, and then all of our ancient history with the stones, and working with stones, and
Mhm.
working with
Mhm.
stones and fibers, and and then labyrinths, and
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
these ancient ways of knowing and following nature, the moon cycles and all of that. That's all part of a show that you would do about the return of
Mhm.
Fae.
And the reason we want to do the show is one, the journey that we are personally taking, so that we're showing up for what that's about and listening and receiving it and then expressing it as it's expressed to us. But the reason we enjoy doing a show, obviously, for any artist, is to share it with other people.
Hmm.
And for us, the sharing of it is that we are storytellers. You're such a wonderful writer, and you write in such an a
Well,
distinctive manner.
mm,
And we were talking about it the other day,
hmm,
in a rhythm that is different
hmm,
than what um, you're taught. And so, what that brings to what you write is an expanded um, scape, landscape.
well, I'm so glad you said about storytelling.
Yeah, because the
Well,
storytelling is
storytelling
what
is so
we're working
much
with.
a part of our ancient, our past, and our present, and our future.
Mm-hmm.
And storytelling is so much a thing held within nature.
Mm-hmm.
The oral stories that were shared by ancient people to each other and carried on
Mm-hmm.
down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's carried, stories are carried through the wind and the leaves,
Mm-hmm.
and people writing on leaves and all that it's always, nature is so much about storytelling. And
Mm-hmm.
in the research we found, the simple thing is, we grew up with Cats in the Cradle, the string games,
Oh yeah.
but started finding out that the stream games, I mean, here you are working with your hands, and you're working with, like cotton string or fibers, and that's very fey, and then that it goes back through all different times through history. Working with string games goes through all the cultures,
Mm-hmm.
and all the indigenous people, the African people, worked with string storytelling, and the Japanese work, and the storytelling was part of the string
Yeah.
game, and they did all kinds of uh, patterns, and they did even geometric patterns
Mm-hmm.
with the string, and then they moved the string and had things funnel up through the string, and then that string is also related to the fiber of weaving, and the storytelling that's held within tapestry and weaving, and then the storytelling that's held within knitting and conversation, and
Mm-hmm.
how we organically gather around and share the fibers of our lives.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very much part of what we're going to interweave
Yeah.
within this time, and hope to have as part of the show.
Yeah.
As we keep going through so many levels, it's like it becomes more and more um, reminiscent of ancient times in our childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and things that we do every day that we don't even see how we pull that from what we call the wooded way. And
Hmm.
so the storytelling is a big part. It's
Yeah.
always been a big part of our work.
Yeah. And I think that w- because of the length of time that we've gathered and the many years that we've worked on this, that it's easy for us to see the. Well, let's see
No,
what you.
that's all right.
Okay.
Okay.
It's easy for us to see that the threads of anything, the thread of an idea, the thread of a conversation, is woven into our expression and our creativity, and so that when we, any piece that's in a show that is of cloth or thread or knitting is all part of the weave. It's like a conversation. You takes even this show right now. Um, what we've done is we've picked up a stitch, or we've picked up, like in crochet, where you reach back through and you pull the yarn back forward again. That's like having a conversation where you reach back into what was either just said or referred to a bit ago, and you pull it forward because that's part of the weaving. So when people are talking in a group, they're talking not just from point A to point B to point C to da 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 da, but they are uh, speaking or creating or sharing something that then someone else is either getting ready to expand upon or in reference to something someone else has said, and that is all what weaving is about. And I think it's an equal expression. That's I think they're there together. The reason weaving exists, the reason sewing exists, the reason putting one piece of cloth together with another or paper. I've been wanting to sew paper together, and that has to do with writing. So that when you're putting one piece together with another and connecting them or attaching them is a part of a storyline. And so those kinds of things show up in the work, and I hopefully more so this year.
Yeah.
I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I'm too.
Yeah.
I think, to all the research, like when with the Wooded Way goes all the way back through time and all the stories around trees
Mm-hmm.
and the voice of trees and what they give and what they hold and how they hold within them, within their leaves and all the creatures and also that they have the Olm, the Celtic, has ancient stories of trees and the power of trees and the voice of trees. And trees, the birch tree is is paper for us in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like trees are ancient. They root down. They representative of the tree of life,
Mm-hmm.
representative of the above and the below. And so when you go into a wooded way, you're working from something that's above and below and is deep rooted, and then it roots itself all the way up into our night sky,
Mm-hmm.
and the night sky is like the above and the below, and so it's been really wonderful to take like the research we would do for one show. It's like we're doing research for one show that we would have done for a lot of shows.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
pulling
think
it into
I was
one.
thinking as you were talking earlier about there's pulling the thread forward
Mm-hmm.
is there's something for us where once we got to that mark of that retrospective show, that now this phase right here is one where it's all brand new, but it has the combination of the elements of what we've accomplished or what we're capable of doing, I should say. But also it brings all of that, all those works that we've done into the works we are presently contemplating and will bring forward. So it's just that's part of the story. We're kind of like the movie The Never-Ending Story. It's kind of like you are in your own story.
Mm-hmm.
Truly, you're in your own story, and you're writing it, and you are creating it, and to get the to get the what was I going to say? Yeah, to get the something or another. It'll come to me in a minute. To get the thread of that, I guess, and to fit. To fit all of these ideas into a studio that isn't 20 million square feet is quite a feat, a VAT. And I think that's something that is the dilemma for a lot of artists, studio artists, to manage how to cram all the ideas uh, into an infinite number of ideas into what seems to be a finite space. But that's all part of the alchemy. And I think alchemy is something that artists attempt to do and work with, and I know we certainly do in the sense that we mix the sounds of the muse with our daily life and able to mix those elements and bring them up to a boil and let them simmer and cool, and then we come up with a lot of times for us a mighty fine dish. We love sharing that. You know, um, artwork is a form of cooking. Artwork is a form of feeding. It certainly feeds us, and I think that's what excites us about um, doing a show. I mean, you know, obviously it is wonderful and very appreciated when pieces sell and can help support the efforts that you're undergoing and what you are trying to accomplish by bringing forward parts of these stories that reach so organically into our living in this world. And I think that being able to have a show, knowing that it does feed the soul, um, is something that is near and dear to us.
Well, the reason when we did the creative life, a lot of times we in the past have used a lot of readings from our poetry and our work, and then also talked about the creative process.
Yeah.
But right now, we're doing this not only to share, but first we're doing it to explore. And I think this is an idea for artists, is that if they could talk out loud and talk about what they're wanting to do
so
and
good,
what they're trying to get through,
Thank you for saying
and
that.
allow the things to open in their conversation, that actually a lot of blocks can be lifted or ideas can expand, and that we have found that when we do these kind of recordings, that hearing ourselves talk, that all at once we start hearing the the complete the complete part of the face of our muse, and usually we're able to expand the work, and that's what we're trying to do right now, is kind of bring things together, because we have been working with so many ideas, and we have been gathering so much exciting directions. And it's like the direction of the storytelling and the string and the organs, and the direction of the Baba Yaga, who is like the ancient one in the woods. And it's like the whole thing of working with uh, the uh, the lines, the fairy lines, and the weaving, and the ancient ones, and the language, that's the language of the birds, and the language of all people that do a language they don't even understand, and they call that what do they call that? A Semitic language. It was
writing.
writing, which is the way that I write when we do a piece of work, and Robert does too. And
Primarily, that is your a big area of expertise that you have, that you add to who we are. So
oh,
I
thank
love
you.
your Asemic writing, and because it is so, because you know it from an emotional, textural, soul level, and it just flows into the work, and it's always been there, and it's fascinating.
Well, we've been looking with how does one even do this much diversity in a very small space that we're working with,
We
and
are
we're
very
working with.
little. We're not very big people.
We're also
You know.
working with ideas in the storytelling of the how do you say that?
Kamichiba, which we ran
Kamichiba
across. It is what, puppetry,
puppetry,
but it's
but it's
Japanese.
Japanese, and
Yeah.
it's a portable. The actually the puppet stage or the vehicle is actually put on a rolling on a bike,
Yeah,
or
on the back of a
some
bike.
people have like a cart, and the whole fun of creating a whole world like that you could move around with.
What I thought was a hoot was the picture that we saw of, even when the presentation was done on a stage, the bicycle was there with the Kamichiba box on the back of it. So it was like showing you that it was really a whole venue. It wasn't just the storytelling, but it's like the bike became part of what the whole thing was about, was the mobility of hearing and sharing a story.
Well, and the Kamichiba is like a portable like a stage front, and then you slide in backgrounds, which are really the story.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole concept of working in presentation, we've just been excited about it. You could even put them as pieces on the wall,
Yeah.
as part of the show. And then the whole thing with making small characters that are used as part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would have use Sculpey and make small characters that were part of the storytelling
Mm-hmm.
that you could utilize. And then the whole thing of paper, working with paper theater and using to tell your story through making a paper theater.
Yeah.
And all part of the storytelling. And then all parts of puppetry, how people, some people do puppet shows out of suitcases.
Mm-hmm.
And then we thought about, and how do we like bring together different parts of these?
Yeah.
And then we saw all these suitcases and the whole potential, which we do have, is a lot of beautiful leather suitcases
Mm-hmm.
that in this small space, one could stack them up and put, like, if you were going to do the...
You're talking about a series of traveling shows. They're all...
Yeah, if you were going to do the
suitcases
felting,
are packed up and
you'd have
ready
a
to go.
suitcase with the felting in it.
Yeah.
If you wanted to do making all the different levels of things that we want to make, you have them each one in a suitcase, and then you could pull out the suitcase and work with that level and then put it back away.
Yeah.
And because we're dealing with hardly any art space at all.
Yeah.
And I mean, and so it's just all the different creative ways that we can make something quite complex more simple.
Yeah.
And we've been
So I'm
working
certainly
through
not saying
that.
we will, but don't be surprised if, or
Yeah.
surprise ourselves if we're not out on one of the corners this summer doing
Well, and working within the
Kamichiba
work
theater on Main
with
Street.
spiritual alchemy.
Yeah.
Within the theater,
Mm-hmm.
working with that and talking about it and making it fun and bringing that world up front in very different kind of creative ways to make the show almost step out of itself.
Yeah. Yeah, we are reaching into, well, we're multimedia and have been forever, but I think also we're reaching into the multidimensional part of how work is presented. So we've at all of our shows that we've done, the opening night reception, we've always done performance art of some sort. So that performance piece has always been a part of the storytelling. So with the the advent of the internet and video and animation and all these different layers upon layers, audio, all sorts of stuff, the theatrical part of it, I think, is surfacing. And I think that's going to expand it more.
Yeah, we've saved a lot worked a lot with that over the years and saved a lot. So those are all the different layers that can come forward to express the Wooded Way, the Return of the Fae.
And as we're talking, I can't help but look up and glance over across maybe about 6 or 8 feet away from us and seeing all these, look, our audience over there.
I know.
We have Maleficent, we have this one character, I don't know who they are, all kinds of stuffed characters over here looking at us, and I thought, well, yeah, it is about theater, isn't it? It is about storytelling. And I think that's why friends get together. It's to talk and share stories. It's why events are placed so that you can come into an area and be told a story or to share a story or to hear a story.
It's also about
it feeds us.
Everything being alive to us.
Everything is alive to us.
And so because it's alive, it's all exciting. It's exciting to have near you and work with. And it all adds to. It adds to your multidimensional self.
And that rumble you just heard is so alive. The house is alive because that's the rumble from the kitchen, which is the next door over right here. So
yeah. We come back here into the little back room that's off our bedroom.
Our little.
The whole space is what?
I don't know. 10 by 15 or
10
20.
by 15, yeah.
Yeah.
That's our bedroom space and our kind of like little little living space. And
Yeah.
then we have in the house we have downstairs here
Hmm.
a studio room where we can
Yeah, we can
have a lot of
gather our
yeah,
gather our forces,
our forces.
which go from floor. The forces, by the way, go from floor to ceiling, and from ceiling to floor, back down again.
And
So,
in a year's time, we're not just working with, um, just like the trees and the.
hmm
In that wooded way is the mystical,
I was going
and
to say
all the mystical that
it's not
surrounds
about
it.
objects. Yeah,
Yeah,
we don't work with people being objects or things being objects. They are
it's about the bees and
yeah. It's
the
about
birds and
the real of
but the
them.
mystical part of them.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, and what they've meant to mankind and
Hmm.
why this threat on them
Yeah.
is
So I think
it's
you
many
brought that up
layered.
again. I think we will address some of within our work, address some of the concerns that everyone has, but in a way that brings a creative aspect to how to work with the feelings of it and how
Yeah.
to go beyond.
Well,
I think that's
I
pretty
think that
good
show's
for
pretty good.
our first show. We picked up this weave from can't remember when the last show was.
Yeah.
It's been at least a year, I would imagine, or more.
Yeah.
So, thank you
I could
for
do other shall
joining
we
us.
read from work, but right
Yeah,
now this is an exploration.
yeah. So this
So
is
sharing
Robert.
us in the process of exploration, and hopefully
This is
you'll
still
try
Robert.
this. Huh?
Yeah, I'm being silly.
You'll try this sometime for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is Robert End,
This is Hayne.
and this has been The Creative Life. Thank you for joining us, and we will probably place this on YouTube. Maybe we'll be able to figure out how to get a picture. Right now, it'll end up looking, I think it says Voice Pro or something, real professional there, but it'll be an audio that is in the video link area, and you'll just press it, and you'll be able to listen to the show. So thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Okay. And
In the
don't
background,
forget
what
that
will be
big
playing here?
full moon. Ooh,
Yeah.
what is that? Hold on. Let's see. Let's give credit. This is Kataro's
Yeah.
Best of Silk Road
We're
painting the background.
Yeah, we're playing it in our room.
Yeah.
And this is the background.
It just happened to be there.
Yeah.
Thank you now. We will hope that you tune in for the next show, which I think will beginning to happen more frequently again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.